Let's see how Colorado does. They should sign Trevor Story to a long-term deal. Okay, 91 losses last year. If the Rockies lose 90 games again in 2020, then they really have to redo it. Okay, but I don't think that's going to happen. So let's see what happens. The Rangers were not viewed as favorites to acquire Arenado from the Rockies at this point, but we'll see what happens. Let's see what happens. They're throwing out a name of Sam Huff, not the middle linebacker for the New York Football Giants, but a catcher, first baseman. Now, for third base, since we're talking about third base, what is Washington going to do? Washington seems to be losing Davidson to Atlanta. I don't think they're going to get Arenado. Hasn't been anything really spoken about with Chris Bryant. So let's take a look. Okay, Carter Kieboom. He grew up playing a lot of third base. Okay, he's played a lot of third base. Not on the professional level. Doesn't have a lot of reps at third base on the professional level, but he grew up playing third base and second base. So, look, in 2018, he was gearing up for a shot at winning the job as the Nationals' everyday second baseman. And now, with a month until spring training, he's an option to fill third base. A natural shortstop, okay? But he's an option to fill third base. He's coming off a very odd 2019. He made his big league debut where he homered in that game, but Carter Kieboom struggled then for about 10 or 11 games, 39 at 40 at-bats. He hit 128 with 16 strikeouts, and even more important, made 4 errors at shortstop. The game seemed to be a little different for Carter Kieboom than it was in the minor leagues. So he's done a lot of work on his footwork. They are really looking to develop him at second or at third. But if he gets a chance to play every day at third, the Nationals could spell him with Cabrera, Castro, or Kendrick. Make sure everyone gets at bat. Castro profiles well as a starting second baseman. But he could see more time at third if Kieboom is not ready. Kendrick would otherwise mix in at second at first. Cabrera could play anywhere, and that's what's going to happen with playing time in Washington. It is absolutely going to be mayhem. Mayhem. Anybody know mayhem? I know I do. She's in the chat room. Arnie is here. Arnie coming up right after this. Is that correct, Arnie? I think it is. Greg, Chris, Dale, DK Lucia's here. Mal Pal, the whole Stephen Hart. How you doing there, Stephen? Now, Stephen said I was a national treasure. All right? There you go. Mayhem. You are mayhem. Okay. Miguel Sano. I'm listening to myself upstairs. Angie's upstairs listening. I can hear myself upstairs. Okay, that's right. We're not going to have a fight in the chat room. Okay, so let's just understand that one. All right, because I am not mayhem. I am ho hum. You are mayhem. Anyway, mayhem is being an O's fan and seeing Chris Davis's contract. Nice going, guess Juana. All right, identify yourself if you don't mind. Okay, Miguel Sano. Oh my gosh, signed a big contract. That's a pretty interesting story right there. $27 million spread over the first 3 years. Then he's got a $3 million 4-year option. I'll tell you something pretty interesting. One of the most interesting things, though, is that the Dodgers had not gone to arbitration since 2007. And last week, they went to 4 arbitrations with Peterson, Muncy, and I think 2 other players that I don't have. I think the biggest arbitration case comes with George Springer and the Astros. He's asking for $22 million. Houston's offering $17 million. So $5 million apart. Mookie Betts, of course, gets the $27 million. No team is in a better position to sign Mookie Betts next winter than the Dodgers. And they were willing to set the record with their offer to Garrett Cole. And I think they're willing to do whatever it takes to sign Mookie Betts. Free agent catcher Matt Wieters is drawing interest from the Athletics and the Cardinals. And we talked about Brett Gardner before. His first game of 2020 is going to be his 1,500th regular season game with the Yankees. And that'll make him the 18th player in Yankee history to play 1,500 games. 18th player in Yankee history to play 1,500 games, okay? The next most for a franchise is 15 for the Cardinals and the Tigers. Jeff Kent, he should be in the Hall of Fame. Now, Jeff Kent was a power hitter. He had 416 fewer hits in his career than Omar Vizquel. And yet he had 519 more total bases than Omar Vizquel. That'll tell you a little bit about Jeff Kent. As far as the Cubbies concerned, with 1 month to go before the pitchers and catchers, and believe me, as we go along, we'll talk more about individual players, and we'll tell you who to take. Don't forget, if you would like to give me a phone call, 516-353-6375. If you've got any questions that you want to talk about. And Andy and I start first Sunday in the month of February on Sirius Radio. I mean, I'll tell you what, the Cubbies should not say that they don't have any money. Okay? They should. Nobody believes Chairman Tom Ricketts when he says the Cubs don't have any money. Okay? But I'm listening to 670 The Score with Matt Spiegel, Bruce Levine. Heard that the Cubs are considering trading for Nolan Arenado and keeping Chris Bryant for their everyday center fielder. Now, you know, local sports talk is great. That's what they say on a Chicago radio station. Bruce Levine, pretty good, does a good show. He says they're interested in Nolan Arenado and keeping Chris Bryant. And wouldn't that be Theo Epstein for you, right? To come out with the Cubbies being one of the teams not trading, not signing a free agent, all of a sudden they're in on Arenado and they're keeping Chris Bryant. Okay? So we'll see about that. Let's talk now about the Miami Marlins. And there's Corey Dickerson. Okay, is a big deal after he was dealt to the Phillies at the trading deadline. Look, I'll tell you something. He played in Miami, went 5 for 14. He's going to be a very decent player. So I'm just going to say that about Corey Dickerson. And don't forget that the Marlins did sign Jonathan Villar. They just signed Jose Urena to a contract and the whole thing. Okay? And they're going to arbitration with Aguilar. Aguilar really pushing the envelope there. I'll tell you that right now. Now, let's just go through position by position with the Miami Marlins, who I do not think they'll be doormats this year. At first base is Aguilar. He's decided to go to arbitration with the Marlins. He had only 235 last year, only had 12 homers. I'm projecting Aguilar to hit about 255, 20 home runs, okay, and 70 RBIs. A big step backward last year in power. And he was traded to Tampa Bay at the deadline, and then he was. Here's the problem. He was in a lineup against lefties, okay? He was in the lineup against lefties. And while Tampa was riding the Chi Man Choi Express against righties. So we'll have another opportunity right now to get significant playing time after the Marlins claimed them off waivers. So I've heard from reliable sources that the Marlins are not that confident in him. But interesting to go back to the well in Aguilar one more time, and let's see what he could do. I'm saying 260, 20 home runs for Aguilar, and he's 29 years old. That's not so great, okay? Not so great. At second base for the Marlins is Isan Diaz. He's the left-handed hitter. And, they're really expecting a lot from this kid. They're really expecting this kid to do a lot. I'm saying he's going to hit about 240, 15 home runs, and let's give him 5 stolen bases. He was a prominent call-up in 2019. He came to the majors in August. He did very well in AAA, and Miami right away stuck him as its primary second baseman. So his only problem, well, not only one, but 29% strikeout rate. He could not handle the off-speed pitch. He had a hard time with breaking pitches. So he's going to have a hard time keeping that batting average up. Okay, all the other stuff is pretty good on this kid. Decent hard hit rate, decent barrel rate. Nothing special, but enough to compensate for his swing and misses. Isan Diaz, in my opinion, if you're going to write this down, if you want to see what I think of him, about 235 to 240, 15 home runs, and about 5 stolen bases. He's a 23-year-old second baseman, and should be good in an only league. At shortstop, they're still going with Miguel Rojas as their shortstop, and we'll get to the prospects in just a second. Rojas has been nifty. He's been very unheralded, but a solid player. I'm projecting Rojas this year to hit around 270, 5 to 10 home runs, 5 to 10 stolen bases. He's 30 years old. A lot of us perceive him to be a little older than that. He signed a 3-year extension just before the end of the season, and that's a little odd for someone to do that at his age, but it shows you what the Marlins think of him. It was really a sign that, and sometimes you have to read between the lines. When a 30-year-old signs a 3-year extension, you got to like the fact that somebody likes this guy. He's going to play most of the time, okay? He's going to play. So, but he doesn't, drive in a lot of runs, doesn't score a lot of runs. That's the function of the team. So, but Rojas is going to be the shortstop. Over at third base, looks to me like it's going to be Jonathan Villar playing third base. Now, with third base eligibility, this makes it interesting. To get stolen bases from your third baseman is pretty spectacular. And he's going to hit you about 270, 15 to 20 home runs, 30 to 35 stolen bases. So the Orioles weren't shy about giving him away. He finished second in the majors in steals. He showed a little improvement, in taking pitches. Showed some solid pop with his 24 home runs. I'm looking at him to hit about 15 this year. Okay, in a different ballpark, the whole thing. So the Orioles moved on from Villar, sending him to Miami for a low-level prospect because they didn't want to pay the $10 million he was due in arbitration. That's the reason they got rid of him. So he's also a prime candidate to be dealt in mid-season to a contender. So keep that in mind. If you're in an only league and you lose a player, this is one player that you got to be careful of. He could be traded, and he could go to the American League. Now, yes, that very well could happen. Let's go back to the chat room. Tito Luna, Ray K is here. Tito, we talked about your trivia question. Zelmo is here, and believe it or not, Rotorius got it in about 3 minutes. How about that one? Rotorius